I am currently packing for Yechats Mushroom Festival that's in 2 days, and by currently packing, I mean I've made piles of things that I need to bring, and out of my list that I have made, I only have 4 things checked off. So I need to get up packing, but I was in the middle of actually starting to pack, and then I realized, oh hey, I should film, because that is more important than making sure that I am packed when it's already 4 o'clock. Everything has been packed. As you can see right there, I would gesture to it, but I need to hold the mic and the camera, so I can't. Very happy I was able to fit everything into my 2 nice looking bags. That makes me really happy. What you doing, you want? This is Monkey. This is my cat. She's very mad that I'm leaving her, but she's so cute. It's still just barely bright outside. Well, I guess it's a bit brighter than barely bright. It's foggy.
She doesn't look for much. She's really scared of the hell out of you. Almost like a bulb, like an iris bulb. People call it stinky socks. I don't think it's.
I think this is supposed to. It's a bleat. What the hell kind of bleat is this? Look.
Oh my.
I can get it out of the ground.
Should be a mutz, not a cat, right? It's a mutz.
Yeah, that's one bug hole.
Just one.
Yeah.
So in this junction, this is where we have found. Oh, is that an infected one?
Yes.
We have to see. Is it also infected?
It may not. It's probably not a high.
What? No.
I do. I'm gonna get it like a fairy before. Yes. I like this sound.
Found a bleat though.
Holy, yeah, that's an understatement. I found a bolete though. Look at her. Shoot!
I went all the way down the hill looking for mushrooms, and I see that. Can't really see it on the phone, but there's a whole bunch of chanterelles. And like a whole bunch of chanterelles. All the chanterelles are waterlogged for the most part. Now I gotta try and get back up the hill. Oh, it's just going to be a nightmare. So I will see you at the top if I'm alive. Made it out. Look at all that. Axolotl. It's not a mushroom. And Dad told me to go up here because it looks pretty. So, it does look pretty. Wait. Look at that.
She arranged all of this. Oh no, now my trouble cuts into
Beautiful name created by a German ecologist who worked in Brazil in the late 19th century, who then started it, he coined the term fungal flowers, or fungi, mushroom blooming, mushroom flowers. And his insights from in the Amazon, studying ecology there in the 1890s and 1900, made him, he became a professor of silviculture. And his message was the best forest management is to be as close to nature as you can. Forget about even-age stands, about monocultures. This is all not how the forest will thrive. The closer we stay to nature, the better we will do. And then in the early 1920s, he got ousted out of his own institute by the even-age monoculture guys. And yeah, so he was way ahead of his time. He did, Möller was his name, so we have a couple mushrooms named for him. I didn't put the black trumpets in here, since we don't have them up North of the Columbia Gorge, they get really, really rare. I mean, hardly any spots, and we're still guessing. Could that be a Douglas fir, or is it a madrone it's associated with? But it's not clear. We have just, if you look in iNaturalist, there's like 3 or 4 spots north of the Columbia. None of these mushrooms is dangerously poisonous. The worst reaction you get out of the woolly vase or the woolly chanterelle that is closer related to a coral, not to a chanterelle. It's also known as the bed shitter. Because I've eaten it 3 times without a problem. I cooked it long enough, so you gotta do at least half an hour, I would say. And people told me, oh, I serve that to friends and family, and it's like, really? But I also seen it on the markets in East Asia, and we have no European knowledge. There is no Turbinellus in Europe. It's East Asia, and it's here in North America, and it, but not out in Europe. So that's on the lower right here. Oh, I have my pointer. The most similar from above is the false chanterelle, which just as much as the woolly pine spike, they are both related to boletes, but both don't taste great. This one causes, the false chanterelle will upset stomachs of some people, but to my best knowledge, there's no serious poisonings from that. But I mean, upset digestive system can be pretty upsetting. And the woolly pine spike, when cooking, will turn purple. So it will tell you amongst your chanterelle, well, I'm different, I'm purple, And really awful was the yellow wax gill. There was just no substance there, and I tried it. It was pretty soaked in January. And we have reports that some of the wax gills, some of Hycrocebi, could be troublesome, but I found references that one is harmless. And then I never seen in person the shantycap, Canthrocybe gruberi, or grubberi. I don't know how you want to do the vowels on that one. And that you find eastern Cascades down into California, but it's pretty rare. Anybody out here found that already? There we have John. See, not everybody else. It's in the Cascades, and it's closely related to Hygrophorus, which some publication, FAO publication on edible mushrooms around the world, claims that all Hygrophorus are all edible. So that makes that case too. And I talked to a bunch of people who ate it. I have not seen it myself yet. And you can't really see it, but I try to make it visible. That's Rich Tehan's picture. More tedious to pick, good to have a long thumbnail or fingernail or scissors, and there can be hundreds of them, but much smaller. And we do have a look-alike, Chrysomphalina chrysophila, the golden navel. I got that name out of common names of the British Mycological Society, which went through the effort to assign to all their mushrooms common names. Something which we have not accomplished in the US or in Canada, and that leaves us the only countries here who haven't done that, who could easily do that. Any European country, East Asian country into mushrooms has made the effort, and yes, it might get tedious in Mycena and Cordinarius and so on, but often you just translate the scientific names, but it makes it so much easier for many people to approach mushrooms when we have common names. And if there's a standardized approach, you can talk easily in common names about mushrooms amongst each other, which really annoys me when I read Germans talk about their mushrooms and not always using scientific names, because I haven't learned the German names like that. March 2020, we were in Colombia when the whole COVID craziness happened, and we got kicked out. Last day of the tour, they closed the border after us, and that was a little bit so that image with the time of morbidity. And the holy grail of cordyceps hunting is this tarantula that got a bad case of cordyceps. You see how the whole body is covered in fine reddish mycelium and then these fruiting bodies. The spider, maybe 2 inches in diameter, was sitting at the outside of a little cavity of a little cave in a oak forest, or at least oak family tree, Cyclobalanus or something like that. Yeah. And now cordyceps in the Pacific Northwest, I found in Kirkland, Ophiocordyceps variabilis, and this is a larvae of a fly. So it's tiny, there's a pencil head, and this larva is known as Psilophagus. Wood phagus, it eats wood, and it has this beautiful drill to push itself through late stage decay in alder. So in May, June, if you have really soft old alder, look for these tiny fruiting bodies. I mean, there's not much. This is a pencil. So what is that? A third of an inch or so. You gotta, I mean, there's nothing else that looks like that. It is yellow. So I thought, oh, maybe a young Stellaria, but it was a cordyceps. And then another cordyceps, also Rich Tehan did a lot of research on that one for his doctoral thesis, and it's probably going to be Paraisaria cascadensis, and it's on this giant grig, an ancient insect, and yeah. So this really ruins hiking now in June in the mountains, where we just could hike and maybe we see, or July, maybe we see a king bolete or some big mushrooms, but you don't really need to scan. You just can go and enjoy the forest. But now suddenly we have to look for these tiny fruiting bodies. Yeah, not fair. And Rich did a lot of pharmaceutical research with this, and it has strong anti-cancer capacity and so on. So he published, and it's really amazing what he found out about the compounds in Paraisaria. I got into this cordyceps stuff doing environmental work in Tibet. I first worked in reforestation, community reforestation, and then helping with rural income generation. And whenever I asked, how do you make your money besides yak herding, it was always mushroom collection and especially caterpillar fungus. And here this bag of this gentleman, already back then, that's maybe 15 years ago, that could have been $20,000. So really lots of money. It grows above tree line or around tree line. So the climatic conditions all around the world are pretty similar around tree line. So even if it's there in 15,000 feet, but 15,000 feet here is a whole different climate, but around tree line. So they're like night frost. And if you are a collector of these fungi, yes, it's freezing every night, and then people walk every day, long distance in the mountains into the habitat, which is already right here too. This used to be all forest. That was my research for my master thesis, when I looked into that and how the Tibetans created grazing areas all over the plateau. But once you're in the habitat, you're down on your knees looking for it because it's so small and so hard to see. And then we asked, what's going on here? You know, oh, cordyceps auction. So the people who had permits and paperwork that they could collect would take their collections to the auction organized by the government to optimize their income. And then each different lot, what people had collected and sorted by size, is on the table and gets auctioned off. So a very good way to help maximize the income of the collectors which the Bhutanese government is really interested in helping rural people to make a living in the countryside so that they don't all come to the towns. The kids are running away, unfortunately, in Bhutan. COVID was awful. Lots of the younger people working in the tourist industry just took off to Australia, Singapore, who have quite open doors for the Bhutanese. Not the case in the US, where they got in trouble for many of them not returning, but it's a couple hundred or so that have a visa here. Sorry. And here, okay, what was that? Blackening the whole thing. Oh, okay. Here in the sand, there's two sizes of caterpillar fungus. One is pretty small, tiny, and that would sell probably here for $2.50 or something like that. And the bigger ones, one piece will sell for $15 or $20. So price is a makes a huge difference. That's the Chinese idea. I don't know if it's connected to the fact that, which is also always overblown in the West, about the Himalayan Viagra and aphrodisiac and whatever. I mean, okay, at least for the joke, size matters and the price reflects this. But if you get old, you have money, and you are conditioned by Chinese medicine, this is how you buy health and youth, through caterpillar fungus. And of course, you could do that much cheaper by using Cordyceps militaris, which has not been a medicinal fungus 50 years ago or 40 years ago. So that's a new thing that we added that to our medicinal mushrooms because the Tibetan stuff is so expensive already 40, 50 years ago, but now it's crazy. And the Bhutanese stuff goes to Singapore mostly and Vietnam, something I haven't heard there 10 years ago. This is near Breitenbush. That forest might not be there anymore after the Detroit fire hit that area so badly. What a sad story. But the size of that mushroom, and it always has a root, taproot that connects to the root system of a tree. So it's parasitic, but it doesn't seem to kill the trees, at least not quickly. It doesn't need a living tree, because now the easiest place for you to find them, if there's no oak growth forest, which is their preferred habitat, is that there's still old stumps in the forest. And so check around the stumps, you might run into some cauliflowers. And this one is here in Bhutan, and beautiful marginate edges here. But you know, if you know them from here and you see that somewhere else, you know right away, oh, that gotta be a sporaceous. And then the sulfur shelf, or chicken of the woods, a polypore. So I should have said the cauliflower mushroom is also polypore. So quite untypical, but it's within the Polyporalis, or even in the polypore family. And here another polypore, and there's nothing to eat here. This is all too mature. So when it's young and fresh, it's delicious and digestible. My brother once ate a too old one, and it took only 2 hours to make its way through his system. That's painful, you know. You gotta imagine what kind of cramping goes on to move a thing in 2 hours through your digestive system. And the poor guy couldn't complain or could ask for some compassion of his wife because she's not into mushrooms, and I told you should be eating mushrooms. So. This is Kate Moad, who just published with Noah Siegel and Steve Dudell, The Mushrooms of Alaska. And also they are nothing to eat. Lots of them. And our Western version here, Letiporus conifericola, tends to be sour. And Paul Stamets claims, he has never published it, but I heard him talk about it, and just asked him, tell you right about it, and he says, well, you can tell that it's like if it's bacteria that make it sour. So I don't know if anybody looked into that, but Eastern I like the name sulfur shelf better. It's often much tastier because there's not the sour factor. And you should not be eating it when it's too tough. And supposedly we have one case in Oregon here where a person got an anaphylactic shock from it. Anybody knows more about that story? And if it was that mushroom, for sure. If you do, tell me after the talk, because it's the only mushroom that would have caused an anaphylactic shock. And I don't know. I don't want it to be a mushroom, right? Laptop than in your cell phone. Cell phone is, I never managed to get it going there, which is one of these Canadian socialist things, you know, where you just do great work and then you share it and nobody's getting rich. But a lot of people have fun. Just like our library system, you know? I mean, there's certain things in a society that can really work that way, and it's great when we have it. So do get your copy of Matchmaker now. It ruined too many marriages when the partner didn't know that the other partner was actually looking at mushrooms when opening the Matchmaker program. So we changed the name. Now it's Michael Match. So it helps. And then we jumped to Japan. And there is, Mycena has the most bioluminescent fungi. I think there's now maybe 130 known bioluminescent fungi or so, might be even a little bit more. And the biggest group is Mycena. And the light is developed when lignin is broken down. So does it help evolutionary that insects get attracted and spread the spore? That's a hypothesis, but if that was such a great trick, I would guess we had more bioluminescent fungi. Even in Mycena, most of Mycena are not bioluminescent, so some of them lost that trait again. If it was such a great advantage, they should have taken over the world already. And another Mycena, but we don't call them Mycena, we call them Favolacia. These are tiny on a fern, and this is maybe an eighth of an inch. And you see these little pores they have, and these are one of my favorites, but more in the tropics or when you travel. We have now one record of one Favolacia on grass on the Washington coast, tiny white one, but otherwise no records. And if you take the DNA of Favolacia and how Mycena works right now, it would need to be a Mycena, or you need to break up Mycena, because they're so close. So it doesn't take much genetics between pores and gills, as also the bulids tell us. Or there's gilled polypores too. And in Colombia, I came along this mono fungi that ruined the cacao fruit. And these tiny wax gills, they're 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter. So the cap is maybe 5 millimeters across, but long stems. It's just so gorgeous. And then these colors, I mean, green and purple brown and scales on the stem. The question is, how often do you walk by such a thing? You know, because it's, I mean, the color is just great camouflage, not the red one. So these are also here the jewels of the forest, these little wax gills. And you actually, for identification of wax gills, you touch their gills and you can feel how they're a little sticky. So really helpful. Wax gills, I mean, okay, with these colors, it's pretty easy too if you have something bright orange, red, yellow, or green in that size class, but they all have waxy gills. The cow waited the whole time until we all disappeared in the bus, and then she started eating. So lots of mammals eat mushrooms, and yeah, and as humans, it's nothing which hasn't been done. We have traces of puffballs and no, it was shaggy manes in the teeth of Neanderthals. It makes you sick by not even swallowing, by just tasting. And this is this Rubobolidus pulcherrimus, the beautiful, we could call it a Satan's bolete or red port bolete. And the stem is red, the cap is reddish, and they can get pretty big. And we have 2 cases of people just tasting it and then getting throwing up without swallowing, which we have of no other mushroom. And I've told probably thousands of people, oh, you can taste your mushrooms as long as you spit out. And then we learn about one mushroom where that is not the case. And then we have the bitter bullets. So whenever you have bullets with red sponges or orange sponges under the cap, you gotta be extra careful. And yes, there is red port bullets that are eaten, especially in Europe and Asia and so on. And we might have 1 or 2, which most people can eat without a problem, but you cannot eat them raw at all. So in general, unless you know your bullets, do stay away from anything red port or vividly orange. And then we have the bitter bullets that quickly stain blue, and they're really bitter. And you don't need to pick such a mushroom and take it home to figure that out. You just break off a little corner first, and you taste it on the top of your tongue, and you get that bitterness right away. So maybe we have one out there where you could taste it, very helpful, and especially on the coast with the spruce tree, we have lots of bitter bullets, and often, we want the kings, but it's not them. The name Coprinus comatus with these shaggy, cylindrical, conical caps, and they liquefy when they mature. So their spores turn black, and when mature, there's a deliquescence, and that's how they spread their spores. And the cap gets reduced from these long, extended caps to these much shorter caps. You still can eat the blackish stuff, and Chet Hyatt again, if you want black pasta, that's how you make black pasta today. It's National Pasta Day, right? And I'm wondering how many people have black pasta, but I wouldn't eat these guys. They grow along a road that's been in Kirkland, where I live, maybe for 100 years. So there will be enough heavy metals that they could something concentrate, and the shaggy manes are part of the heavy metal concentrator, bioaccumulation. So most mushroom will reflect the metals in the ground in a 1-to-1 level. Like, don't pick mushrooms on a mine tailing, because the levels are really high and the mushroom might reflect that level. Unless it's Willis, and we have new research by Amy Honan, there's no reason or rhyme. They analyzed a whole bunch of swillers, and it just made all no sense, neither species, no location, no heavy metal in the ground was logically reflected in what they had. So you can find so many countries around the globe that have research of mushrooms and heavy metals. You can do that maybe since the 80s. And in the US, hardly anything. Even if there was a little bit of research, like in Colorado 20 years ago, never got published. We had a little bit in Washington. Erica Klein had it on a webpage. It's gone, never got published, but now we have these swillers study from Amy Honan and other colleagues from, I think it's Montana or so. But no reason or rhyme regarding heavy metal concentration. So I have my heavy metals analyzed when I wrote my book, because I deal with so much suburban mushroom hunting, and I wanted to know. And my lead was way too high, but mushrooms do reflect the lead in the soil, but they don't check it up. They don't bioaccumulate, while zinc and some other heavy metals, arsenic will really spike in some mushrooms. The little purple Lacaria, only the purple ones, they have extreme high values of arsenic, but the research is only from Europe and Asia. So in the US, somebody's now hopefully working on it. Will be interesting, but the other Lacarias don't have this arsenic concentration. And so my lead was way too high. My selenium was pretty high, because I'm a successful king bullet hunter. King bullets are loaded with selenium, so you don't need to buy any Brazil nuts to get a little bit of extra selenium, which is good for you. I stopped eating them. But you should be careful with certain mushrooms. Agaricus, is a heavy metal concentrator. Puffballs are too. So I also have like 2 pages in my book about that. Base, but smelled on almond, like almond. And I thought, okay, I'll try that, and it was fine. So, but it's like we don't have one here that stains yellow and has an almond odor. And then the meadow mushroom or horse mushrooms, these are still European names in grass habitat, and you can see the chocolate brown. And one of them, almond, not almondy when young. The meadow mushroom can get really big, and the horse mushroom already has the almond odor when young. And campestris, or what we used to call campestris, has a fluting stem, so that really helps for identification. Okay, now here a challenging mushroom, but it's out here. The streaked knight, Tricholoma portentosum. Okay, the knight. I like it better than trick. It's a British name, and the knight is a reference to St. Michael's Day in May, because in Europe is this choice edible, the May mushroom or the April mushroom in France, which used to be Tricholoma gambosum, and hence all these tricholomas were called the knights. And we already have kings and jacks and queens, so there we have a knight too. And anyways, these are really interesting mushrooms, firm flesh, good taste. Only problem is Tricholoma pardinum. The panther tricholoma is quite similar, but 2 main differences: dry cap, dry scaly cap, and no yellow in the stem. And these guys can have yellow, and I wouldn't pick them without yellow in the stem. So that picture is actually right here up the coast. Couple, maybe half an hour. And then Matsutake. The main thing to say with Matsutake is white mushrooms, very firm with a ring and sand on the stem base or volcanic ash, according to where you are. And here in the sand dunes, they're happy with these fast draining soils. And the main thing is you want to tell them apart from poisonous amanitas. Here's the amanitas, here's a Matsutake, and that's not my picture, and I don't have the name in there. But as soon as you take it between your fingers and you squish it, you can tell the difference. The Matsutake you cannot break unless you train for that, maybe, and the Amanita will break right away. And the second thing is the odor. So another thing you gotta do here, smell them on the table, learn that odor, which is like red hots, a little bit cinnamon-like, very interesting odor, which the Amanita doesn't have. The Amanita has a whitened stem base that smells like bleach, and bleach should always be the signal, don't eat me, right? But the books talk about that weird odor, and you could construct, oh yeah, that's a weird odor. So a little dangerous here. You gotta know the odor and the firmness, and then you are safe. And interestingly, the mushroom was first described in Sweden, the first of the Matsutake, and it was called Armillaria nauseosa, which makes you nauseous. That aroma, the Swedes decided, and it never made it into a Swedish mushroom book till the 1990s. And the Swedes were smart enough to claim the naming rights and left it to the Japanese, who described the same species 20 years later in 1920, and the naming rights were yielded to the Japanese name because it's one of the most famous mushrooms.
it's another 7-Eleven. It's like there's a 7-Eleven on every corner.
I don't know what's worse, you know? Being blown up in a nuclear war or having a 7-Eleven on every corner.
Look at how soft that moss. Look at that.
Soft moss. Soft moss, soft moss, soft moss.
Big old beard.
Circle K right there.
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.